Hey, everybody, welcome to UroNurse. We meet every Saturday at 9 a.m. Central Time. If you're watching this on YouTube, great. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and the like button. We'd appreciate it. If you're new to the program, we appreciate that. Come on and be sure to check out our website at uronurse.com to see how you can become more involved with the program. Plus, you're able to find old programs and rewatch things. We're at episode, I think it's 23 today. So it's good to be able to look back and see what things have gone on and that you might have missed. We got a little schedule change for today. Originally, it was supposed to be Diane Newman speaking, but she had a family incident she had to go out of town for so she is going to be rescheduling. So I promise she will be back on the schedule as soon as she gets back in town. We're going to be filling in. I'll be talking today on urology in technology, or technology in urology. And I think it's going to be a pretty interesting show. I'm going to kind of talk about how I utilize all my toys in my day-to-day work life and how you can make your life, I think, a little bit easier. So it's going to be a very interesting. My first half of the show, always general questions are fine. Just go ahead and submit those in the Q&A button. We're glad to talk about anything you want. Their favorite stories. Now, this time I have a submission from one of our attendees. I'm going to start up and kick it off with. So Rita from San Francisco area shared this story. I've been retired a few years from San Francisco VA and still miss my urology patients. I wish I could remember all the funny stories. One in particular was on vasectomy day. Several patients were sitting in line waiting their turn. The older patient who had his procedure completed by the urologist told me beforehand that he was going to march out of the room with his head up, spine upright, and not look dejected because he didn't want the younger men to see him with his head down and slumping like a puppy who made a boo-boo. It was so funny to watch him marching by my office afterwards like he was still in the military. I think we all relate to that. Patients are kind of crazy, and guys especially, wanting to show off and, play with. They know the other guys are super nervous. They want to make them more nervous. So I even found some of the younger guys will, kind of go in there walk out kind of groaning, trying to throw some trash to the other guys. So anyway, have you ever any crazy things happen like that? Patients putting on a show for the other patients? Lori?
We actually had one yesterday that actually you could tell, some vasectomies, they walk out normal. This guy was bow-legged and just walking like, like he had a bowling ball between his legs.
Yeah. So I guys, what can I say? So, do you have a story ready, or if you do?
Well, I could share, talking about people. I know when I first started listening to the story about the vasectomies, of course, you've got all those people, and we had somebody pass out yesterday as well. And the classic sign, I don't know if anybody's noticed this, I've done this for a long time. Classic sign is when they start going like this. And I don't know why. I think they're starting to lose, like they're starting to not feel right. So they start playing with their hands and they start, of course, sweating like a pig.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did actually, I wanted to share a story about, it's not only the vasectomies that pass out, it's the assistants that actually, especially new assistants with vasectomies for whatever reason. We had, I always tell new employees when they're first watching a vasectomy, just if you start feeling lightheaded, sit down, because for whatever reason, that's when they decide to pass out as new employees. And so we had this one girl and she didn't listen and she passed out, but she passed out right on the patient's junk. She'll never live that one down.
Yeah. It's a weird thing to experience that people, you don't always think about it, that we all expect everybody's, they're in this profession, they're going to not get queasy about it. But, sometimes you're watching something and then there's a lot of blood that's, starts coming up in the field and people will react differently to it. So yeah, great story. Now I'm going to share a story. Since it's technology, I'm going to share a technology story with you guys. So the year is 1976. 1976 is when I started college, and I started at the University of Illinois. And even though I was a biology student, I spent more time in the computer lab than I did it, I think sometimes with biology stuff. But that's a picture of the computer lab. That's not me. And one of the programs that was available was a thing called Plato. It was stood for Program Logic for Automatic Teaching Operations. And it was basically my first forte into computers. And the program was set up so that they could compete with other people throughout the university. What a lot of us don't remember is the internet wasn't around. It wasn't around back when I started college. But the very, very start of the internet was something called ARPANET, which was a connection between all the major universities. And that's really where the internet was spawned from. That was what it looked like in the early 70s. By the 80s, most universities, most major ones were connected. And University of Illinois was one of those. And what they would do is they would set up a question and you'd answer it. And you'd be doing a competition between students from all over these different universities. By the way, that picture is not of me. And this is what it looked like. So this question would come up and it said, what is the value of the ratio area under CH3 peak versus area under CH peak? Well, I got a little creative and decided instead of answering it the way they, wanted me to answer it, I just wrote down, hey, my name is Vic and I'm from the University of Illinois. Where are you from? Well, pretty soon I got people sending in their information. Like, my name is Steve and I'm from UCLA. How's the weather in Chicago? I wonder if it was Steve Jobs. And then, hey, Vic and Steve, this is Joe from Purdue. Pretty cool. And then I got quit screwing around and answer the question. Bill from Dartmouth. That might have been Bill Gates. But anyway, my big claim to fame is I actually invented texting. Before text messages were a thing, I did it. Now listen, if Al Gore can say he invented the internet, I can say I invented texting. So that's my one claim to fame. You can take it for what it's worth, whether it's true or not, but that's my claim. I do have a couple questions that came in here. I'm going to take a quick peek here. Maybe have an episode on genetics and testing. There is a new test for bladder cancer. I wonder how many practices do them. Definitely, that's Katie put that out there. I'd be interested in having somebody from one of these companies talk on that. I've got one company in mind. I've been discussing that with them to have them as a speaker. And then Neil said, I had one post-VAS patient start limping as he entered the waiting room for sympathy from the wife. He wasn't quite sure what type of pain to fake. And Neil, thanks. That was a great story too. The vasectomies, the wonder of the world. Always something that's people will do. We always tell patients, that, you can't use birth control after a vasectomy and you shouldn't have sex for a couple of weeks so that the tubes get a good chance to heal. But then the best way to clear out the vases or the sperm from your system is frequent sex. And I've had a couple of patients ask me, hey, can you give me a prescription for that so I can give it to my wife? You hear everything there is under the sun. All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and get right into this subject, which is technology in urology. Now, let's see if I can bring myself up here in the corner. Good. So technology in urology. Now, whenever I talk about technology, I always like to say that the expectation I have is that your reaction is either going to be wow or huh. I say wow because whatever I tell you is going to be so mind-blowing that you're just going to go, wow. Or maybe it'll be a simple huh. So huh isn't quite so mind-blowing, but nonetheless interesting. So the technology that we're referring to is what's available right now. I'm not looking into the future. I'm just going to go into what actually is available for people right now and how we utilize it in our everyday work. So just as a little reminder, technology has come a long way. The phone that you carry around with you day to day is 1,000 times faster and has 1,000,000 times more storage than what the astronauts used to land on the moon back in '69. And in 1977, 48,000 personal computers were sold. And I bought one of the first ones, which was the TRS-80. And there's a picture of my first computer, and neither one of those guys are me. Those are a couple guys from my band, and they actually were spending more time playing with the computer sometimes than band practice. But just in case you want to see what I looked like back in the 70s, there I am. I'm the guy in the middle. Yeah, the 70s. They were good times. So what about now as far as computer sales go? Well, they predict that 342 million computers will be sold this year. And they're talking about desktop, not laptops and phones and everything else that goes along with it, but just in desktops alone. So we can see it certainly has become a part of everyday life. And they've changed in the fact that they're so light, so small, and all day battery life that, you know, these laptops will go on and work perfectly for an office without being plugged in. But I think the real hero in office, medicine is the iPad. It's the perfect device, super lightweight, less than a pound. The interface is a touch interface. Really kind of works out great. Patients are able to fill out forms on it because it's so intuitive. And that's really where I'm going to focus my talk on. And this is the latest thing, wearable technology, which is really taking over. I remember when I bought the first Apple Watch, big surprise. You saw a few of them. Now I watch anything I watch on television. I kind of look at people's wrists to see, and you'll see more and more Apple Watches on people. And as you go through, airports and everything else, you just kind of look around, do a little people watching. You see that the Apple Watch is everywhere. It's been kind of dominant. I will disclose that most of the stuff is going to be about Apple because that's what I like to use. And what's interesting is if you ask the average person how many of these different devices they own, most people own more than one. They may own a watch, a phone, a laptop, a computer, they own many. And probably no big surprise, but my day-to-day use, everything, pictured here, I use on a day-to-day basis. I have an Apple Watch. I have an iPhone. I have two iPads. One's the iPad mini. That's my kind of sitting at the side table when I watch TV and I got to look up something on Google, right? Win the argument with who that actor is. My iPad Pro, which is my go-to for work, that is the best thing. You don't necessarily need a Pro. I just kind of like the function of the Pro. And then of course my big computer is the iMac, and that's the one that's my day-to-day driver. But the big thing we're here for is tips and tricks. How do we put all this fun stuff to use to make our life easier? And some of this stuff you may not know exists, some you may, but I'm going to highlight what I think is going to make EMR so easy that you're just going to be happy about it. So as I said, the iPad, to me, iPad and EMR were meant for each other. It's like, peanut butter and chocolate. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is something called Text Expander. So what Text Expander does is it helps to make shortcuts into long sentences. And I'll show how that works. So if you go into your settings, and this is all on iOS devices, so this is my iPad. And what you want to do is go to the keyboard and click on that. And that'll bring you over to where you can click this box called Text Replacement. Now, Text Replacement allows you to enter a phrase, a name, whatever you want, and create a shortcut for it. So as soon as you type in that shortcut, as you can see, I'm typing it in here, it'll expand out to that full name. Big time saver. But you don't have to just put little shortcuts in. You can put in whole phrases. This is our vast procedure note. I'm going to click me out of the way so you can see this. I type in VAST Pro, which was my shortcut for it, and you can see that entire paragraph can go in. So imagine, you're going in to fill out your note for your EMR, and all you have to do is type a few letters and click, and you can go in there and edit it if something was different. Maybe the patient passed out, so you can change that patient tolerated procedure well to passed out. We have consents built into our EMR, the program that we use. But there's still there's areas that have to be filled out. This area here where you have to put the physician's name and the date of the procedure, etc. That can all be done with text expansion. And let's show you how that works. So here, IO is for the doc who's working with that day. TT is my today's date. I don't know why I'd use TT, but it was easier. And then, of course, my initials go down in this box and it'll expand out to my full title. And it saves a lot of time when you're filling out this consent over and over and over again, which is as I do throughout the day. As I spoke in the past, I get the main thing I do now is prostate works and prostate biopsies. So this is our form for prostate biopsy. Again, with the iPad, with the ability to just kind of point and click to everything, I can go and click these boxes quickly to fill them out. And again, text expansion for the lot number and expiration date for that Rocephin that I give. I just created a abbreviation CV, and it expands out to the lot number and the expiration date. Big time saver. Again, I do 5-10 biopsies when I'm in the office and the antibiotic over and over again, so it saves a lot of time. Another thing that is built in is speech to text. So if I do want to do a note kind of freehand and you're like me and you don't know how to type, I went to a college prep high school, and you could either be a science major or a business major. And the business majors all took typing and the science majors didn't. So I never did. I learned the hunt and peck way. I'm pretty quick at it, but it's certainly not like I watch some of these young guys in our office just typing away at, as fast as you can almost speak. Well, now I can keep up with them. 39-year-old female comes to the office complaining of urinary frequency, burning, and hematuria, period. She reports that she went to urgent care and was treated with Cipro, period. She states that they did not do a urinalysis or urinary culture, period. She also states that the symptoms have not improved since taking the medication, period. Now, I can tell you, my hunt and peck could never keep up to that. That's actually untouched. That's live action. The computer is keeping up at that speed. Now, of course, I do use the iPad Pro, which has the highest processing chip, which helps. It learns all these words. So if you go in there and correct words, there's machine learning built into these computers that is always watching for it. So since I use it quite a bit for dictation, it seems to have learned all my medical words. Unlike where in the past, you had to use like a dragging program and pay for the medical version of it that would have the medical words built in. This is free, all included. Now, the other thing I like is something called predictive text. So I don't have to create a shortcut. The computer recognizes through what I was talking about, machine learning, what I do daily. So it's trying to automate everything for me in the background. It works in a wide range of applications. It kind of looks at trends and patterns and identifies things and tries to continuously improve. So when it makes mistakes and I go and correct something, it learns that I've corrected it. And this is an example of a real time saver for our office. When we're doing prostate biopsies, I'm back getting the patient ready in the procedure room, and the doc's seeing patients over in the exam rooms, and they're not all that close in our office. We have a pretty big office. So I like to send them a text message to let them know I'm ready to get going here. Well, predictive text takes care of most of that work. So here's a example of a message I'm going to send. There's his name, HU. I click on him, and you can see on the bottom, it's already suggesting what I want to say. And it knows I'm doing biopsies now. So it's saying ready for, I do biopsies or resume. So it gives me both choices. So depending on which one I'm doing with this guy, I can click on it and hit send. And this is what it's going to look like once it's sent. So he gets this message on his watch saying, Vic says he's ready for the biopsy. And this really, it's a very unobtrusive way to let him know. It's not like I'm looking in rooms or trying to go and find him or standing out in the hall waiting for him to step out of a room. And he can just glance at his watch and he'll come down at the next open time that he has. And the watch face is actually a thing nowadays. So this is what my watch face looks like. These are called complications. You can create any way you want your watch to kind of show things. But this is the calendar. It shows the date and what's going on. Any text messages that I get, I like to have the weather there, try to keep people's minds off of things. Talk about the weather. And this little thing up here is interesting. And that's what we're going to talk about next. And with all this technology, there are some drawbacks because there's a lot of stuff going on throughout the day that can get really disturbing. And I don't like to be bothered throughout my day. So this is something called focus. If you've used it before, I'm sure you love it as much as I do. I may have some tips for how to use it that you didn't think of, but Focus really helps. What Focus does is basically take all your notifications and turns them off. It's found in the iOS, it's in the settings, and you can go to Focus. Focus actually has a couple of preset do not disturb, a sleep setting and work setting. And then personal, obviously I didn't set that one up, but the other ones I did set up. So you set up times and what you want it to do. Or you could even add your own kind of focus. There's no limit. But I'm going to talk about what I did on the work focus. And it says right here, what it's going to do is silence the alerts and notifications. So you don't have those emails coming through, the constant beeping and noise and whatever going on throughout your day. But sometimes you do want some things to come through. So you could actually do an override. So certain people like my family and the docs that I'm working with, I want them to be able to get in touch with me while I'm at work. So I tell it to override those. And there's certain apps that I want to be active that they can override too. So don't open everything up, so I'm not getting bothered by other stuff. Now here is to me the coolest part of this thing. Turns on automatically. So there's a picture of my office. There's my car coming in. As I drive my car into the office and park in the parking lot, the phone actually senses the fact that I'm at work and turns Focus on for me automatically. So I don't even have to remember to set it. The minute I drive into the parking lot, I'm in Focus mode. All my notifications are turned off. And the best part is when I get back in my car and start heading home, it turns Focus off. So now all my messages will come through, all done automatically. Now you may have noticed this. I talked about the calendar. So since I'm only doing one procedure, it's not like I'm loading all my patients in. I just need to load a certain group of patients in. I like to preload the patients so I can see who's coming up, when they're due, so I know how far behind I'm actually. So there I have, to show you how I do this, I just go into the calendar app, could be easier, and go and fill in all these settings here. So biopsy, and I just put their initials for HIPAA protection reasons and put those spots in the calendar so that when I look at my watch, and here we can see it's 8:39 and it's showing between 8:30 to 9, CM's due for his prostate biopsy. And hey, I'm on time, so that's always good. Now, besides the use of technology, there's a lot of useful things out there that we can use on a day-to-day basis. And some of these are websites. And this is one of the websites that I highly recommend if you're part of the SUNA organization. I think you can still get these even if you're not, but go to suna.org and there's a patient education procedure handouts. And you can see from this list here, SUNA has really put together a big list of different topics that you can download these patient procedure handouts and give out to patients. There's a couple of these that I was actually an author on, so I highly recommend them. They're free to go out and at the very least check them out, but it's nice to have. AUA also has something very similar through their Urology Care Foundation, and you can just look that up on, or Google it and you'll get to this website. But they have the same thing, lots of handy patient education information that you can download for free and give to your patients. I think that, it can't be understated that giving patients something to take home is a huge plus, because people walk out of your office and they forgot half of what you told them. Now, for our own practice, I created this thing called the Patient Pulse. I didn't name it, but that's what it basically is a SharePoint website. And so it's a place to house all of those different forms. So the consent forms, we have education brochures, instructions, etc. So these are all in one spot that our staff can go and find them. So they don't have to go to the individual websites to find all this stuff. They can just go right to this Pulse website and they can look them up. This is just shows what the listing looks like. You click on them and print them. So we used to make up instruction sheets, and then people would copy them and copy them and copy them. Sometimes they were on the 25th, copy of it, and you could hardly read it. So this is, every time we print it up, it's a fresh copy. There are apps that I find that are really useful that you can recommend to patients. Most patients now have smartphones, so these are good to use. And I like this one. It's called IU Flow Voiding Diary. Most of these I think are free. And this one is a voiding diary where the patient is able to go in there and enter the amount that they voided, if they had a leakage episode or an urgency episode, and then how much they had to drink. But the one thing is, this area here is what they bring back to your office, and it shows how much they've had to drink, how many episodes they've had to void. I sometimes think the voiding diary can be the most overlooked tool that really can give you a ton of information and really should be utilized more than they sometimes are. I could tell a lot from looking at a voiding diary. If I see that there's, frequent urination, but they're all small amounts, I'm thinking probably somebody that's having retention issues, or maybe a hypotonic bladder that's not maybe emptying out. If I see a lot of voids, but they're large amounts, I might be thinking about diabetes. So voiding diary can kind of give you some guidelines as to what's going on with the patient. Also, if they're good enough to put what product they were drinking, like juice or water or pop or whatever, we can start thinking bladder irritants too. So it's really a lot of good information. And I just think any way that you can do this to get patients to be more cooperative in keeping track of this, such as on their phone, the better. I thought there's some crazy ones out there that I would mention. This is from the bladder and bowel community. But if you have urinary frequency, that could be a terrible thing. You're trying to find a bathroom. I think this is kind of cool, where you just can take this button, push this here. It'll show a card saying, hey, I can't wait to go. Can you just show me where the bathroom is? And a discreet way of being able to do that. Kind of neat. And then it also has ways of looking up bathrooms. There's actually a couple different apps out there to find toilets. So it's a thing where they've mapped them. Now, the one thing I will tell you, I don't know if you've never traveled to Europe before, but see, this is the Loo and WC Finder, water closet finder. So those are actually European terms. One thing I found out, I've been to Europe several times, and you can't find a bathroom in Europe. They're hidden. They're never where you're used to America. You can always find, about where they're at. All of them are hidden. And for the most part, if you want to use the bathroom, you're going to have to buy something. So, I had to go to the bathroom. I had to buy a pop to go to the bathroom, which means I'm going to probably have to go to the bathroom again. But having these maps is kind of nice. It does point out where the water closets or loos can be found. I found this one. I don't know, but everybody's in the drinking water. So this is a way to remind yourself, if based on how often you're urinating, whether you're taking in enough water or not. Probably could be a nice thing for kidney stone prevention for people that aren't drinking enough. This one here is really useful. The Urology PSA calculator. Our previous ultrasound machine did not calculate these values. Our new one does. It's kind of nice, so I don't have to use this. But I used it a lot before that. Just get myself off the picture here. So PSA density, you just go ahead and enter in your PSA level and your prostate volume and hit calculate. It'll give you that density number. Also, kind of nice is it does tell you up on the top what the normal cutoff should be up here, 0.15 and 0.23. So abnormal density. Again, doubling time. So you put the first PSA, the second PSA level, and the time in between. It'll tell you how quickly they're doubling. So every 3 months. And PSA age volume. So it looks at the PSA, the prostate volume, and your age, and tries to discriminate a number. So these are some helpful things to, use in counseling patients on whether they need a biopsy or not. I know a lot of people use the electronic devices for doing urinalysis in the office. They're great, but there are false positives, false negatives on those. So if you have a microscope in your office, we do. You should get good at urine microscopy. I think it's really something that's essential, but this is a nice program if you're just starting out, or even if you've been doing them for a while. It's got all these nice pictures here that you can kind of refer to, and you're looking at something under the scope and say, oh, what are these big cells here? And it'll tell you exactly what they are. Free app. Free is always good, right? That's why UroNurse is free. The best things are free. This is a kidney stone app that you can load on your phone, and it kind of gives some dietary recommendations. The thing I like the most about this is the stent reminder. So you could set this for the patient, telling them that, their stent needs to come out. Some patients we've had patients forget. We have like a reminder card so that we make sure that we don't forget, but patients can forget they have a stent in. We've had patients from other physicians that came in and they've got problems and didn't even realize they still had a stent in place, which is a bad thing, both medically and legally. This one I thought was kind of an interesting app, but patients like to get involved in their care. And I think this is one of the ways that you can kind of help them through if they want to be part of the decision making, and they should. They put in the location of the stone, the size of their stone, and how much pain they're having. And it'll basically tell you how many patients had a similar situation as yours and what they did and how successful they were. So you can see that, the small stone without too much pain, 40 out of 60 will pass it successfully. So that might give somebody ammunition to go ahead and try to pass the stone and not have surgery. And then this one is just pure fun. If you're ever starting to get into the augmented reality, this is a free one called Insight Kidney. There's some different parts of the body that you can download, but I'm going to show you what this one looks like. I really had a good time playing with this. If you're giving a talk on anything, this is a great tool to use, but it basically gives you this 3D image of the kidney. You can twirl it around, and it's got a lot of different things you can do. So let's see, you can break out. So you want to just look at the nephrons. You're going to talk about nephrons. You can do that. You can go in even closer to the actual glomeruli, and all the way into the capillaries. So and all this 3D imaging. And I like this. You can label different sections if you'd like. You can turn that on or off. It has a pointer system that if you're using it as a lecture tool, you can point things, or if you're just showing a patient you want to not touch the screen, you could do that. Again, you can manipulate it if you need to show somebody. But, trying to describe where a tumor's at, that's really a nice thing to have. Get my face out of the way here. You can also turn parts off. So you can get rid of the cortex. You can get rid of the veins and the arteries. So if you want to just talk about something that adrenal glands in your way, get rid of that. You can see all these things can be stripped away or added in. It really can help to best suit the way you want to talk about it. If you're trying to describe where a stone's at inside the collecting system, just cut it in half like that. That's kind of a neat cut. And again, here's adding some of those things back in. As you can probably tell, I had a lot of fun playing with this app. This is on your iPad, so the device that you've got in the room anyway, you can just use this as a teaching tool for patients. Want to tell them where their tumor's at, want to tell them where their stone's at, and give them a nice visual. This thing really works out to be good. Yeah, I just can't stop playing with turning it side to side. It's amazing. Even the shadowing and the lighting effects that happen, what they've been able to do is really cool. And this one, I just added it in because I get these emails from a company that's on technology. And so this one just came in. The Withings new toilet-based scanner tells you about your pee on the iPhone. So it's basically a urinalysis that's built in, and you can kind of see this little thing right there, that little hockey puck thing that's left in the toilet. And every time you flush it, it cleans it. I think it's left in for like 3 months, and it has multiple biomarkers that it can analyze. And I've got a little cut from their website. So you can kind of see where the future is headed, that this at-home kit. Now, I think that it's being approved in Europe already, and they're working on getting US approval. So, hey, that's the end of my talk. I'm going to switch over to our Q&A. And let's see, I do see something that came in here from Rebecca. The problem with the iPad is there is no other language option for patients that don't speak English. Patients find them frustrating because of how long they are, and some of the forms don't apply to the specific patient. And the medical history section is highly limited with the information patients can select with no free text space. Can't argue with that. Of course, they try to make everything, available to be utilized for multiple cases. So that's probably why it doesn't always fit every case. So Rebecca also said, I do not trust that toilet scanner, and the majority of patients that sign up for this will be hypochondriacs. I don't know. People really worry about their urine and what's everything else. So who knows? But I don't know. What'd you think of it, Lori?
I thought it was great. Actually, I already downloaded the Inside Sight Kidney or Kidney Insight on my phone just so I can play with it. Because the first thing that came to mind is our doctors are drawers.
Yeah.
So you go in after they're done to discharge the patient, and the table paper is just all full of drawings and all this stuff. And so, I thought this was cool, especially for kidney masses, because that's usually what they draw the most, are kidney stones, just so people have a visual. I think it's cool.
Yeah. It'd probably be a nice add-on if they had the ability to put in a stone or a mass and things like that you could kind of show it. But it's really, to me, it's the wave of the future. And for some of the less artistic physicians, some of these drawings were really bad. We had one guy who in particular liked to always draw on the table paper.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the session, he'd rip off the table paper and send it home with the patient.
Yeah, there was one physician that actually drew so much that we made him a book. So we kept all his drawings and put it in a book for him to see at the end of the year.
Yeah. Let's see. I wonder how Neil Smith's question here. I wonder how the in-toilet UA can adjust for fecal contaminants. Good question. There wasn't a lot of information on it. And like I said, the main reason I included it is because I got the email like literally yesterday, and I'm like, this is intriguing. I'm speaking on this subject, so I thought I'd include what information is available. It doesn't even list all the different tests it's going to be able to do, but it did say it does clean itself, and I think that fecal material, because of it being in the front of the toilet, would probably be not an issue, hopefully. And also, I was thinking to myself, for like, I don't know, for like a female, is their urine stream going to hit it? A guy could aim certainly at it, but because they kind of show how the urine drips on it to get into it. So I'm not sure how all that stuff's going to work, but I'll be interested in learning more about it because I think this is interesting. Rebecca says,
I have to agree that it's going to create many more calls to the office if somebody has one of those. Like on a daily basis, what does this mean? I have this.
Yeah.
I have this. Oh my gosh, I couldn't even imagine.
It could open up a whole lot of questions from patients. Yeah. But who knows? Maybe the service will offer some kind of patient counseling. Call this 800 number and talk to a specialist. Could be a job opportunity out there. A lot of companies are hiring nurses that are, answering calls for them. Rebecca says, I love the table paper drawings. I'm going to open an art gallery of them. I think that there's a lot of stories that can be told about those artistic drawings. But what's it really say is there's a need for it, right? Patients need to be educated.
Yeah, I know in our facility, they're pretty strict. So we can't have drawings. We can't have things on the wall like you used to. And you can't have stuff with a brand on it. So it makes it difficult. The doctors aren't going to want to go into a drawer and pull out a big poster or anything, but they don't want those hung on the wall. They're very particular on what you can have. So to have an app that has all that, where you can show them real quick, is I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. We used to have a lot of models from different companies that would give those out for free and have them available in your office. But I do know that some of them are considering that like that model is going to make you use their brand over somebody else.
It's advertisement. Yeah, that's what they think. Sure.
I think it's just helpful, but
yeah.
And then actually those handouts are really helpful. If you haven't looked at the SUNA website or the Urology, the AUA's website with the patient education, I strongly recommend looking at those, because there is a lot of good information, and most of them are like a one sheet print off, and patients can be directed to those websites too if you don't want to be, taking on the cost of printing multiple things. But I think, we'll see what sometimes maybe our legal guy who's going to be speaking in a couple of weeks can say about patient education and handouts, how much that could probably protect you in a legal battle, that, patients are properly informed and you're giving them this information to take home. So anybody else with any questions out there? We've got a few minutes still left before we're done with our talk. I just find that, for me, technology has obviously always been a big part of my life. I got involved with it early on and just have utilized it. It's funny. I'll kind of tell you a story about the technology. So I started a band in our senior year of high school with a couple of my buddies, and we had a wedding band. So we were playing, a little bit of everything. And three of us have been great friends for life. So these, we're still good friends. We still get together. We go on vacations together. We've, done everything. But interestingly, technology was a big part of all of it. My one buddy that was in the picture was the drummer, is the main software engineer for Siemens. And his job was to develop and to take care of the PACS system. The PACS system is all those digital x-rays that you see nowadays. So that's where his technology took off from our band together and playing with computers. He became a software engineer. And like I said, he keeps every hospital, I think, in the country, or the world, I should say, because he has to do call at night anywhere in the world that they have a problem with their PAC system. He's got to get it back up and running so they can see their x-rays. And the other guy went into prosthetics. So he works for a company that designs artificial hips and things, and all on computer. So I guess sometimes what you do as out of high school and college can follow you along when it involves technology.
I definitely don't do technology. That's my big flaw. But Vic, I do know how to type.
Yeah, rub it in. People who watch me type go and just shake their head. The only thing that got me through college was I married a secretary. She typed all my term papers. So, yeah. But now with dictation, I mean, I rarely, if anything, if it's more than, like a text message or an email, I'm dictating it, because it just takes too long to hunt and peck through it. Well, great. I don't see any other questions coming up. So I'm going to go on to the next couple of things I got to mention here. So this came in as a suggestion from one of our attendees. And trust me, attendees, you make a point. When you tell me something, I listen. So one of the things I was requested is hey, I should do a teaser for next week's show. So here's our teaser. Next week is going to be pediatric urology. And Paula Wagner is going to be talking about that. Paula Wagner is one of our attendees who's been coming to many of our different programs, and she'll be presenting next week. So she'll be stepping off of the attendee role into the panelist role. So we'll welcome her for next week. So that's my teaser. Again, if you can't get enough of us, and some of you can't, there is the after party. I will open that up after we close this session down. Just go to the website, uronurse.com, hit that big red button that says after party to be instantly transported into the after party. Otherwise, hey, it's a great new year to start off 2023. Things are looking good for UroNurse. I hope everybody's had a safe time through the holidays and everything's works out for you. And again, feel free to send any suggestions that you have to the UroNurse website through that. I have gotten some attendees send in compliments. Hey, really like the show and keep doing it. Love what you're doing. I appreciate getting those emails too. So feel free to send anything you want through the email system. Glad to get it. And Lori, thanks for your showing up for the talk. It's always good to have another panelist to kind of help to run the show.
You're welcome.
So with that, I'm going to bid everybody have a great day, and we'll see those that want to come over to the after show. Have a great day, everyone.